this is not the place or time for it.
Yeah. Now, Fabe, I know you had a topic you wanted to address. I don't know if you still have that in mind.
Mm-hmm. You want me to bring it up?
Yeah, go ahead, bring it up. Man.
Okay. So the topic that I had, it was what Eric alluded to, was in the Black community, we talk about, being held down, being oppressed and things of that nature. And I'm definitely not saying that we weren't. So that's not the point of this message or this question.
You better come correct, baby.
Yeah. When you put that, when you put that preface there, I'm thinking in my mind like, okay, this preface better be.
I'm ready. Because listen,
go ahead, get it out.
So back to, I alluded when I spoke earlier, I talked about choice. So you always see in movies, TVs, they all, for the Black community, their only way out is through, through basketball, football, whatever. That's the only way out for the Black community. I ain't got no other way because I gotta hustle. And with that, what I'm saying is I feel that that it is a choice. That hustler who's saying, well, I ain't have no other opportunities, this and that, so I'm out here on the streets. Well, to me, like the point of self-educated entrepreneur, there's so much nowadays, there's so much technology, there's so much information out there that if you want to know something, you can find something out. So what do you guys think as far as the Black community? We're saying, well, they're oppressing us. Well, why aren't we in the Black community encouraging each other to learn ourselves?
Hold on before anybody answers that.
I'm ready.
I just want to tell the fans that that's a question. It's not an assumption.
Yes, it's a question.
So I don't want people assuming that he's saying slavery was a choice kind of thing.
No.
Oh, man, we ain't Kanye around here.
That's what I want to make sure.
No.
That people know that this is a question, and it is a very valid question, and I'm sure we're going to have some great answers on that. So who wants to take it first?
Oh, I'll take a swing, for sure.
I knew Eric was going to take it.
For me, kind of the first thing is we need to look at ourselves and say, who are we outside of the lens and the narrative that this country has cast upon us, right? And we see that all the time, right? And that's not just something that affects, Black people, right? Like that affects everyone, right? Like America tells a narrative, like here's what a good white family looks like, right? Mm. And there's a lot of people who don't fit that and they struggle, right? That's why you got the little shooter kids. That's why you got the goth kids, people who don't fit into whatever this normal is, right? And we implicitly don't fit into that normal. And for me, I want to stop talking about myself and my community through someone else's lens. That's the first thing I want to do. I want to shed all that stuff and say, and ask myself and ask my family, like, who are we? Like, who are we as a people? What is our culture? Because if you look at what America is telling people, like through television, through the social media, right? And Byron, I'm gonna say something that I'm gonna give you a little bit of credit for something you said a couple weeks back, okay? So, but don't get carried away now, all right?
I already know you're going at too. I know you're going at.
Because you're talking about music,
yep,
right? And your boy was totally okay with WAP. I love me some WAP. And you were making some real good points, but I was more on the freedom of expression kind of tip, right? And then I sent y'all a video, I think last weekend, White Mike. That's not me being racist. That's what he defines himself.
That's what he goes by. Yeah.
And one thing that kind of shook me for a second was when he talked about the music. And he just did a very simple comparison. Okay, there's a lot of rappers who are out there literally talking about like killing people, right? And it's not white people, it's people who look just like them, right? And on contrast, how many other country artists, pop artists, you know, any kind of other artists are out there talking about killing white people, right? And I just took a sec there and I was like, dang, you know, it's because, and then who's the consumer of that, right? The biggest consumer of hip hop music is not black people, it's white people, right? So we're making music. We are holding hands, selling a stereotype of ourselves.
That hit me hard too, Eric.
And
That hit me. When he put that out, I'm like,
yeah,
yo,
that
yeah.
definitely shook me a little bit because I can tell you, hey, look, sometimes, man, I can be a little niggerish, okay? Like, look, when I turn on my jams, man, like, yeah, whole other side come out, right? Like everybody, I'm pretty sure we've all done it. Like you pulling up to work, you got one whole vibe, and the second you get out the car, you're like, okay, like now I have to be proper now, right? So like, I'm pretty sure everybody can relate to that experience, but it
can't.
Oh no, you never had to do that. Look, man,
Kirk Franklin.
I've definitely pulled up to work. Actually, I'll share a really messed up story. One time, my boss got into my car. We was going to lunch, and it auto played my playlist. That was an awkward 15 minutes on the way to the spot. Okay.
Why you just turn it off?
Yeah, he wasn't ready for it. We can leave it at that. It was a bunch of awkward trying to turn off that stereo.
Oh, I see. It took you 15 minutes to get there, but the music was already off by that time. But
yeah. So like, for me, like, you know, there's a whole vibe. Like, you know, sometimes when you just got to get into a certain headspace to get through the day, right? And so like, man, like that serves a purpose for me in some spaces. But then when I'm sitting here just really thinking about what that speaker had presented, I was like, damn, like here I am, I'm participating in that, right? Like I'm indoctrinating myself, you know, on top of that, right? And I feel like that's the struggle that we have as a community. It's like if we put this aside, if we put the messaging aside, who are we? And that's hard work. Like everything that we're talking about today, the whole journey of mental health is answering that question. That's incredibly hard work. Now you want 30, 40 million people to all go through that at the same time. That's a long journey, but it's essential.
But look at how powerful, like unity, using that example. So like he talked about when Rick Ross put out the one song and he talked about date rape and all, and the white community came and yo, that's bad, and he lost sponsors, all of that stuff. So why? That is a prime example. Like, okay, whatever, that's how they felt. So why isn't the black community coming together saying, yo, this isn't how we want to be represented?
Yeah. And it's this whole fear of, man, if we take that away, they ain't gonna let us have nothing, right? But the way I even frame that up is what we need to throw away. We don't need them to give us anything anymore. Right? Like nobody's giving me anything. I'm earning every single thing. And guess what? We always have, right? We always have. And to me, that's the whole thing, is that I feel like we just got to go through this whole thing of like, you know what? I'm not focused on them. Like I'm focused on Byron and Jarrell and Dante and Fabe. Like, what are you guys doing? What are we doing? I don't even want to think about them anymore.
Yeah.
No?
Hey,
yeah.
They
I'm with
need to go ahead and give my reparations. That's what they need to give me.
What's that?
Reparations.
Oh yeah,
Give me that.
I want some for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I want it, but see, I'm moving on from that, man.
Look,
I can't hold on to that energy because I don't think
if there's a ballot and people are signing up.
Yeah, but I mean, they sign up for a lot of things. So I mean.
If they start trying to check records about who got here and who deserves what, then I'm not with it. Then if y'all trying to cut me out, man, I'm not with it.
That's the thing about it. It's all smoke and mirrors. That's all it is. This is election year, and this is the thing. When Fabe asked that question, and that's why I had to preface that it's just a question, because the biggest issue I think that we face with as being black, especially black men, is we don't know if it's conforming or it's being ourselves when we do things. So let me put it in this perspective. We're from our origination is mostly from Africa. We'll say mostly from Africa. So if we look at Africa modern, it's still culturally entertainment. And I'm not talking about entertainment like, you know, basketball, football, and stuff like that. I'm talking about entertainment in the sense of they like to dance for music and they like to do things that are different than what they do in Europe, right? That's their norm. Their things are culturally based things that are embedded from centuries of their time, and they continue to do those things.
Well, hold on, can I challenge you real quick on that? Because I don't think that's the case. I just think the West has commoditized us.
No, what I mean is this. What I'm not talking that it's an issue of everyone only does that. I'm saying that's music is a big part of African culture. You know what I'm saying? Music. I'm not talking about, you know, what we listen to today mostly, but
Yeah.
just the ideal of rhythm and getting things done. And we do things in a certain realm of things. It's like I can't even describe how it is.
I guess what I'm trying
Proper, when people talk about Europe, it's proper. And that's what they view it as. It's a proper thing. And when we got to America, you have to have that European viewpoint, which is proper. But anything outside of their rigid lines means it's not proper anymore. So if we always try to fall into that category of if what we're doing doesn't fall into that category, are we doing something wrong? Or are we being too black? Or are we being too hood or whatever? And why can't we just weave in and out because we're humans? Why can't we?
That's the point I'm trying to get at is I don't think we like, you know, take anything. I don't think we do things more or less than any other group of people on the planet, but they show it, right? They try to define us with that narrative, right? Like when they show you Africa, they don't show you the massive cities. They don't show you modern cities, right? They take you out into middle of nowhere and they show you the tribe people, you know.
But even in those massive cities, they still have people who enjoy entertainment. But let's look at the entertainment of European entertainment. It's still very stuffy to us. And I'm not saying.
I just think they don't show it.
And they have their own groups of people who do things. What I'm getting at is this. If our culture is just totally different than what their culture is, that's okay.
Yeah.
Why is that not okay?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So if it's okay for us to be us and them to be them, we can still coexist together and just have different viewpoints. I respect theirs, they respect ours. The issue is that they wrote the narrative how it should look. Mm-hmm. So anytime we do our stuff, it seems to be extreme because it's not what everyone's telling us. So what happens is this. We fight an internal battle trying to mimic success or ways to get success through their lens, like you were saying, and we're trying to make it seem like we're doing the things that they, or mimic the things that they do, but we don't have those rights. We don't have those resources and things that they have to do that. So what we have to do is overcome that, become like them, and then make it to there. But then once we do that, we lose a bit of ourselves because now we're like, okay, I've done all of this.
And you're still not
here like you, but I have lost a bit of who I was because that wasn't authentic to what I was.
Yep.
So the choice, what he was talking about with choices, even though people, we'll say Chicago, because everyone always brings up Chicago when they talk about crime and everything else. So I'm gonna bring up Chicago for the good point is, Chicago wasn't built on negativity, but Chicago was built on positive stuff. They brought negativity towards it. When Chicago started growing, the area wasn't, the areas that we live in now, or the people that look like us live in now, were middle-class people houses. That's what it was for. So then government came in and said, hey, you know, these are houses for you guys. You guys can grow your wealth and everything like that. And then somebody decided to build suburbs outside of that area. So guess what they had to do with all those subsidized housing? They had to put somebody in there. So what did they put people? Mm-hmm. They look like us in there. Now you have them pigeonholed between an area that can't grow. So the choice right now is what, like Fabe was saying, yes, we have resources to say, go online and do all these things, but how many of us do you see make it out of there? in our community right now, where we live at now, we see more successful people because we're not in those pigeonholed places, but in those places where it's just seeing people who look like you who are failing or who may have just a little bit more than you. That's your only hero, or that's your only example of success. You know what I'm saying? Or we just have football players, basketball players, entertainers, and stuff like that who we look up to. We don't have so many people that look like us. So when we're making choices out there, the choices are kind of a moot point, because it's like, I still can't get out of this hole. I can sit here and make this choice, but where am I going to go at? I look like this. I grew up this way. I talk this way. No one's going to hire me, or no one's going to be accepting of me. So I have to invent something. Well, everyone is not a creative, everyone's not a business owner. We know that. Everyone can't do that. So what about the workers who can't do it? And then
Fight to find your way.
But this is where the choice, where I was going to say, as business owners, when we're Black business owners, we do not, and we talked about this before, it is hard for us to support each other, because what we want out of it is not always widely widespread. So if I want shoes, I want cars and stuff like that, I have to go 20 miles away and pass by 30 different places that may sell something that I want, just to get to a Black store. That's too much work. So I can't make business and employ more people that look like me. You get what I'm saying? So we limit ourselves by not supporting ourselves, and supporting ourselves by growing ourselves. So now we're just saying this. It's a vicious cycle. We continue to say, I want growth, but I'm not growing my people.
Right.
I want success, but I'm not helping my people get to success. So all I'm doing is saying, I want it, but I'm not doing everything I possibly can to get it and help others get it.
Yeah.
It's always me, which is fine, but society, listen, I'm fine if that's what you want to be. But society for us doesn't look the same way for everything else. We can't just be selfish in that situation. If we want to get out of that hole, if we want to say we have those major choices to take or to make, we can't make those choices alone. And that's just point blank. I'm sure Fabe didn't build his business by himself, did he?
Right. He's like, I sure enough did.
I won't be mean. If my wife ever watches this, she'll be like, you better say I help. But no.
But you get what I'm saying. You had a support person. You had a support person that was there with you, right? It doesn't matter if it's your family or not. You didn't do it by yourself. No business runs by itself.
Right.
But our Black businesses have to thrive by themselves in hopes that they make it, because the other skin tones aren't buying their product. So it's a hard choice.
Byron, what I was going to say is, Fabe, I understand where you're coming from 100%. And I think there's opportunity. I can imagine if you had a different skin tone, that you might have more business, but that doesn't mean that you can't conduct business and you can't make a profit and you can't be profitable. I think that I'm not going to say a lot of people, it takes work to do what you've done, and you got to have a hunger to do what you've done. And there are a lot of people that are frustrated and angry and don't feel like they'll have a fair shot at it. Now, this is a statement that I truly believe. I can take a white person at a trailer park, put a suit and tie on him, and he'll look just like every other white person. Give him a haircut. I can't take an African American, put him in a suit jacket, a shirt and tie, and he's going to look like somebody that they're looking for. And I think that's where the difference comes in. There are people that don't overcome, and there are people that do overcome. And it's hard. It's difficult. And depending, like Byron was saying, depending if you're in those pinholes, if you're a part of that, it makes it even more difficult when it comes to your success, because it's the I got to work twice as hard for half as much. And some people don't want to be satisfied with that. Some people are satisfied with that. I think when you look at, we've talked about it, when you look at LeBron James, and I just think about everything that he's done without going to college, without having a college education, but he had a goal in his head and in his mind of, I want to be a billionaire. And he put people around him that was going to get him to that point and wasn't going to shortcut, was going to do things the right way. And he told his boys, like, hey, I'm not going to give you this. You're going to work. You're going to get a craft. And then you go out and do what you got to do. You can have my name tied to it. You can be LeBron James' friend, but at the end of the day, you got to do it. And I think that's what we need more, is more of those people that will come and pick somebody up. I'm not saying give a handout, but pick people up so that we can. Because how many people can do what you did, Faye? You're getting ready to start something where you're going to try to help people. And that's what we need to do. We need to be able to give back, because there's a population of people, white, black, whatever, that don't believe that they can do anything.
Yeah.
But in actuality, Faye, you obviously can show them and teach them the way to do it. And I think that's where maybe sometimes the black community fails each other, is we don't do enough uplifting, whether it's music, whether it's just real life. I watch documentaries, and I, try to stay up on a lot of things. And I think where I got frustrated is just hearing how the African American community, if I have a black business, I'm not saying that you have to have an all black staff, but they're less likely to have an all black staff. And what it came up to be was, the feeling is that an African American is more susceptible to take advantage of an African American owner than a white person does a black owner, or a black person does a white owner. They feel like they can get away with things like being late. So there's a lot of African Americans that own businesses that don't want to give those opportunities, because they're like, well, I'm already at a disadvantage because I got this black owned business. So if I hire the wrong person and now my store suffers, now my business is gone.
Yeah.
Am I willing to take that chance?
That's unacceptable.
That's part of the issue of what we're talking about right there.
Yeah. That's
I didn't say it was
I-
right. I didn't say it was right.
But I want to share my experiences, what you talked about between like the black and white. You go ahead, Dante.
No, I was just saying that, but that's the issue that we're talking about right now. So you're one of the ones that made it out, but then you're gonna go and say, I'm not gonna hire black people,
right.
because you are basically having the same stereotype that they try to put on us. So like that makes no sense. So it's like, okay.
But what's funny about that? What you say that stereotype comes from where?
Exactly.
Because if you never had a black business
White
before,
people.
how do you know that?
Exactly.
But let me tell you this: how many times have you worked in a business that has
And
White
that's
on.
one of them.
a white owner, right? And those same people, not black, are late all the time or don't do their work and stuff like that. Do we say that, oh my gosh, that business, I would never hire a white person because they're late all the time? No. We get those labels so easily because guess what? We accept those labels. We accept it instead of saying, no, that's not what it is. That may be the case for that one person, but that's not what it is. When someone says a black business, the first thing you think about is the customer service of it, or if they're going to give you what you want. But you never ask Walmart, you never ask Target, you never ask any of these companies, are they going to give you the product that you deserve? You assume that they're giving you the best. Why can't you just assume that about that? When I worked for State Farm, I worked for a black owner of this, their franchises. He was the owner of it, and he worked hard. And the only reason I left is because I wanted my own business. So, and he told me this story. He was like, being a black man in this industry doesn't make it easier. I had to work for everything I got. I mean, when he said he had to work, he was working overtime, everything. And still, for a company like State Farm, they weren't giving him his stuff just easily. This is what they said. He was telling me this. He says, to be a black man in this industry, my water has to be colder than the next person's water. The white man down the street water. We sell the same water, but mine just has to be a little bit colder than theirs for them to buy from me. And I didn't know that until I opened my own insurance agency. And my co partner, he was white. And I remember we were doing some business runs. And if you've never had a business where you had to go and deal with other businesses, as a black person, you always have that apprehension of, okay, how they're going to perceive me. No matter how I'm dressed up or how I talk or how I look, I'm always thinking that, okay, they're going to see that. What do they think I'm selling? You know, is it creditable? You know what I'm saying? No matter what my business was. And he couldn't understand that concept. He was like, what do you mean? And I realized this, he didn't have an understanding that no matter what, they'll see him as just another guy trying to sell them business. That's it. But they'll see me as a black guy annoying them. And then maybe later on, if I can get through that first barrier, then I'm trying to sell them something. And then they're going to compare my selling to everyone else's, not the product or anything like that, just how I am. You get what I'm saying? So when people found out that I was having my own business, they're like, oh, really? And it's weird to hear people say, oh, I didn't know you do that, because I worked a 9 to 5 also. And they were just like, oh, that's crazy. How'd you do all that? As if it's amazement. But the guy down the street could do the exact same thing. And he's just like, that's a normal thing. So I think it's just society's viewpoint of us in those realms. We create those, we keep those stereotypes for ourselves, and then we keep passing them along to every other business or every other person, and they just keep manifesting themselves. So I think for us to make those choices out of those things, we have to do it internally first. Everything goes back to internally. If I go to a black business, I know that I'm going to get service, and I don't assume that the service is going to be worse or better than anybody else's. I assume the service is going to be the service that I'm asking for. That's point blank. I need to have the blinders on that it's a black business when I walk in. Even though I'm going specifically for the black business, I need to have my blinders on that it is a black business and not have any stereotype walking with me, you know, because that's not fair to that business. Because I deal in finance, and I'm gonna tell you this. I drive a 2009 car. I guarantee if I drove a more expensive car, people would think that my finances was better than what they are. Although that doesn't mean that's the case. They would think that my finances were better if I drove a better car. And that's the craziest thing, because if you're truly in finances, you wouldn't be buying no expensive car. You get what I'm saying? But yeah. Image is everything, you know? Yeah. So I think it's just when we make those choices, and when people want to make those choices, they have to see something that represents them, that looks like them. That way they can feel like they can get out. Yeah. If it doesn't look like them, there's going to be an obstacle there, you know? Bill Gates doesn't look like us. Steve Jobs didn't look like us. Eric, what's his name? What's the guy? Tim Cook doesn't look like us. Steve Jobs. I mean, Steve. What's the Amazon guy name?
Bezos.
Jeff. There you go. Rich guy. Elon Musk. None of them look like us. So if I ask you a question like, could you ever be like Elon Musk?
Absolutely.
You yes. Say absolutely, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And then
I started late. That's my problem.
And then okay, so now you start late. So what do you got to do to catch up?
Gotta run faster. Gotta run harder. Gotta run longer.
What are you gonna do? What's your plan? Then you got to start thinking about what's my plan to be a billionaire. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. So now, you know for sure that to get to be his thing, you have to work 50 times harder. Not because of the time frame,
but I don't mean work harder than him.
Yeah.
I just mean work harder than the next guy.
Yeah.
Right. All I'm looking at is the guy next to me.
See, I'm always looking at the guy in the mirror. I need to work as harder than the day I worked before. That's what I need to do each day.
to speak to something
That's incredibly high bar.
you alluded to, Jarrell. So for me, as far as the lawn business, so it's actually twofold. You guys might laugh when you hear where I felt the, I don't know, not racism, but the, the doubt on the black community. But like in the lawn business, I actually haven't had a customer who made me feel that they were racist or anything like that. I've actually been very blessed with a lot of the customers that we have, and majority are white. Who were my most difficult, not most difficult, but who were very difficult and picky? Two black customers who wanted the most for the least. They wanted their property to look like everybody else's and look good and want all this work and want this and wanted a specific way and this and that and this and that. But boy, when the invoice came, it was a problem. And it was, I'd send a quote. See, I'd send a quote to these black people, and what would they do? Oh, well, can you do this too? Oh, can you do that too? Oh, can you? I've gotten that more from them, and I'm just being honest. I don't know what it is, but from white people, hey, I need you to do this, and then they understand that, hey, I'm gonna charge you some extra money. You're asking me to do something extra, and okay.
But ask yourself this, and I want you to think of this because I understand what you're saying. But I want you to challenge yourself with this. The black people that you're asking to do this lawn care, how often do they get their lawn care prior to you? Like how many companies have they used? Did you ask that question?
The one before, so the first one I'm thinking of, she was using dudes with a truck and a trailer, basically, or with a truck and a mower. She was using like El Cheapo dudes. And then the second one, I know more her nature. She's an investor. For those that out there that don't know, investors are sometimes very cheap.
Stingy.
But understand this. So the reason why I didn't want you to stereotype black community on, because keep in mind this, and this can be a full blanket statement based on my own viewpoint. So the white people have been used to dealing with companies like that. So they know what to expect and what not to expect, and they know what to get and what not to get. A black person may not have dealt with higher caliber companies like you. They haven't dealt with the cheap ones who would say they'll do all these things for X amount of dollars. Now, they may not do great work, but they'll do those things. So when they come to someone who may have a higher caliber like your company, they're thinking, okay, I don't know what the going rate for this stuff is. So when you come out with these numbers, you may be trying to rip me off. So I'm going to negotiate as low as I possibly can for you. And whereas with people who have money, who's dealt with these kind of companies before, they know what the going rate may be or something like that. So they're like, okay, that goes around with what the companies I've talked to before, because I've talked to 30 different companies since I've been living in this house. And that's pretty much what the rates are. So they have a different understanding of what it is what it costs for doing those things. So it's harder to say that it's just black when you don't have a whole slew of people that you've dealt with, in the community for that particular situation. You get what I'm saying? It's like if you want to interview 6 people, but you interviewed 100 white people, 6 black people and 100 white people, is that a fair scenario? When they may not even understand how the business works. That's what I was saying. I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm just saying.
Yeah. No, I understand. But the other piece to that, where I will say not that the people were racist. The stereotype is is the word that I wanted to use. I didn't feel the people that was racist, but it's been times that I've been outside my house, my duplex that I own, doing work, doing whatever. Like the neighbor within the first 2 days of living here, I was outside raking leaves and she comes up, introduced herself, all this stuff, and she's like, "Oh, you guys moved in?" And I always make it a point. Yeah, we moved in. We bought the place. I always make it a point to say that because I love seeing people's reaction. Because she's, oh, you bought it? Yes, I did. Yes, I bought this. oh, well, you're doing it right, this and that, da da da. I've had a couple neighbors around here who have probably come out to see who the new black person in town is and talk to me and say, oh, you bought the place. Yes, I did. We're not renting. I own this, and that's my tenant over there.
But ask yourself this: why do you feel that you have to justify that?
Exactly.
Because that's the black in you. That's not the and unfortunately that's what it has to be. That's what it is. Because
Yeah, I ain't ready. Yeah.
huh? And unfortunately,
Yeah,
that's what
I'm
we go
letting
through.
people know that I'm here, and
I
you're
know.
gonna hear.
And that's great. I'm not knocking that. But you see how in the black community we have to showcase that we belong.
Yeah.
But see, we don't have to.
But we choose to because we feel like if we don't, we're being outcast or they're looking at us down on us. And we should not even care what they think.
Yeah, exactly. Because here's the whole thing. If they had that notion about us, it's not going to change just because we told them that.
Yeah.
Right?
True.
It's not going to change. And the same thing when you talked about the black folks who are being so hard in your quotes, it's the same black tax that Jarrell was talking about when black folks don't want to hire other black folks. It's the same thing. It's all the black tax, right? And so for me, to me, I don't even want to bring it up. I'm just like, yo, like you're either about what I'm about or you're not. And if you can't see the value in what I'm doing, then I'm not your contractor, right?
Yeah.
You know, but this whole thing, we constantly feel like we gotta prove to them that I'm worthy to be in the room. I'm worthy to be in the room because I'm in the damn room. How about that?
Yeah.
That's it.
I'm not gonna lie.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Jarrell.
I was gonna say I'm not gonna lie, Fabe. I'm the same way. I not with everything. You know, I don't try to. It's not a showboat thing, but I try to keep it to the point where people see that I can own something. I can be civil.
Mhm.
I can be this. And my perspective, you know, honestly, I used to get mad with being the token black person or
Yeah.
Yes.
the person, but I stopped with that because in my head, what I truly and honestly believe is now I would rather be the token, because if I'm the one that you're going to see, if I'm the one that you're going to make judgment on, you're going to see that we can be hardworking, we can be this, we can be that, and I possibly can open up a door for someone else. I think that in my head is why I do a lot of what I do. Not necessarily just to be like, hey, I'm black, I'm this, but it's like if I'm going to be the person that you guys see, I want to be not necessarily a role model, but I want to be a person. I'm going to be who I'm going to be. My name is Jarrell, and I'm going to act like I'm how I'm going to act. I'm not going to, you know, try to showboat in front of you or act extra special just because you hired me and I'm African American. No, I'm going to act like I'm me. When I go to interviews, my number one thing that I say when I get my opportunity to talk at the very end is the person that you see today is the person that's going to walk through the door. The person you're going to see 5 years from now and 10 years from now. Nothing changes. I don't put on a front here in the interview and then come in the door and act like something totally different. And in my mind, I'm always thinking about the next person that comes in behind me. I want to leave no doubt in their mind, like, okay, if I hire somebody that I believe is qualified and they're African American, no, they're not going to do X, Y, and Z. But that's why I do it. But I do. I mean, I've had neighbors, and I'm like, yeah, I own my own house, you know, own both my cars, and it's just, I don't know, maybe subliminally, I'm that is what I do, and that's what I believe. But that's just how I've started to do things.
You know, one of the big.
But go ahead, Dante. I apologize.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Dante. Before I go.
Man, I forgot what I was about to say, but you just said something, Jarrell. So when I was manager at Chick-fil-A in Finish Line, I would do the same thing. to let people know, hey, I am the manager. You know, you need to talk to anybody. You talk to me because I'm the man. I run this. That and you know, I definitely have times when what you say?
HNIC.
Man, listen, and I definitely had times too when people were like, "Oh man, you the manager?" Like they were surprised, and I did it too as well because I wanted them to see that, hey, you know, a person that looks like me can be in this role that you are seeking to speak to. But then again, I feel what Eric's saying. You know, and I think we do it because we know that we're some of the people that made it through those cracks, and we have to broadcast it because it's not the norm, you know, because people don't see that more. And then if we go back to the original question that you asked, babe, about why don't we use this and that to kind of get us through and push up and push through? It's because we don't see a lot of doctors. You know, and I think I said this before on one of the other ones. You know, we have people that make it out and they stay out. They don't come back. You know, so you don't see those people that made it out or whatever. They live in California and they never came back. There's one show that I watched. It was what is it called? Married to the Medicine or Medicine, something like that. Yeah. It's a bunch of women that are doctors in Georgia, and one of the ladies, she is a doctor and she lived in Miami, and she's like, "Bro, I haven't been here since I left for college," and it's like, "Well, why?" You know, it's just a lot of stuff that happened. I didn't want to revisit it, whatever. So she was a doctor that made it out, but she never went back to the community where she was from. So people didn't even get the chance to even know that she was from the same area. So the only people they see is people that play football, people that play basketball. They see the drug dealers. That's what they see. So you can, I don't want to say you can only become what you see, but we all know how important a father in the household is, and how important, you know, having a mother and having a stable environment, because what you see is normally what you're going to do. Not saying that you know, we should just say whatever, don't care, and just whatever, but you are going to portray what you see the most. And that's why when you see, so like for instance, when you see a white family, the dad's a doctor, the mom's a lawyer, it's not a surprise that they will become one of those, or somebody, or something high, what the society would say is a awesome job, because they had those examples. You know, that's why. And then when we talked about like the stuff that we see on TV, that's why the Cosby Show was so important, because you were starting to see those examples of a doctor, you know, stuff like that.
Bad example.
But, what's that?
So don't bring up Bill. Bad example, man.
Well, Bill was just
no
an actor.
I ain't talking about him. I'm talking about his character.
Look, as we all know, all his good work is now undone. Now that's the black
character. He's still the character.
They are now the same.
Okay, we can go Family Matters.
There you go.
We'll go Family Matters then.
Yeah, Carl Winslow.
It's a rare condition.
But you know, I think that's mainly what it is, and I mean, yeah, even till this day, yeah, I do that still sometimes, you know, and it's sad that we do have to do that, you know, and I'm trying to remind myself I don't have to validate myself for others, like, because at the end of the day, you know, nobody can break me, you know, and, you know, people can say whatever they want to say, people can do whatever they want to do, but at the end of the day, you know, gosh, Go ahead, Byron. What God
Okay.
has for you is for,
What?
and there's nothing that anybody can do about it. But I feel like we feel like we have to validate ourselves to kind of put ourselves in the same circle as them. And so I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna get out. So like the whole thing with Jay-Z becoming an ambassador for the NFL, I didn't like it. And a lot of people was like, oh well, that's really good because you can't make change if you're not at the table. Woo, 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 wah, wah, wah. And I'm like, okay, I see what you're saying, but yeah, he gonna sit at the table. But guess what? When he leave the room, the real conversations are gonna start. And so it doesn't even matter because you can be at the table, but you'll never be part of that circle. And you may be able to impact a couple people here and there, but for the most part, people are gonna believe what they want to believe. People are gonna think what they want to think. And so, and that's why I'm trying to get to the point that, like, man, it is what it is. I just gotta be me and keep it pushing. And that's leave it at that.
I want to say one thing to what you said, Dante.
Go ahead.
Because I feel like Dante's making that point. We're talking to the wrong audience. When you validate yourself to that person, they're just gonna say Dante, Jarrell, and Faye. He's just one. He's just the one who made it out, right? As soon as they see the next guy, that guy's gonna have to revalidate himself. They're not gonna say, "Oh, there's a such thing as a black doctor. There's a such thing as a black entrepreneur." That's facts, right? They know that already. We're wasting our time talking to the wrong people.
You were taking my point, Eric. I was about to say something to that.
To me, I'm like, I don't want to flex for you. I don't need you to know anything about my life. I want to turn around and look at my little cousins and say, hey, this is a real opportunity for you. What are you trying to do? What do you want to do? Right? Like, let me help you. What do you want to do? That's the people we should be directing our energy at, not some ignorant fool on the street who doesn't think a black person can own a home.
I agree.
If you knew, you would salute me. Let's go.
I agree. That's what I was going to say. I think it's imperative. Or Jarrell, you wanted to go. Go ahead, Jarrell.
Well, I was going to say the biggest part of the validation, and I'm not saying reason, but I'm just going to go on something current. And Dante, we just talked about this. Masai Ujiri, GM for the Raptors. They won the championship. He's trying to come down and celebrate. There's a police officer that confronts him, pushes him twice. He pushes the police officer, right? Now, in the midst of this, he tells them, I am the GM for the Raptors. In a suit, tie, looking nice, and had people around him. It wasn't like he was just walking by himself. Now, the whole story, for people who don't know, this police officer, who was a police officer, then files a suit and said that he had mental, emotional problems and is trying to sue this man. So now the video decides to come out. I shouldn't say decide. They bring the video out, and then you see the police officer shove him twice. First of all, and Dante, we just talked about this. You're a police officer. What is your job description? Did you think that you were just never going to, any type of altercation, any type of anything, so you're going to go out on the street and somebody push you and you're going to try to sue him? But here, you find out that he's the GM and he's got this money. One, why did he have to say he was a GM? Two, once the credentials were shown, you should have let him go. But no. Let that be anybody else, white, we wouldn't have this issue. But he had to validate himself in that very moment of a championship game of a team that he put together. That, to me, is absolutely ridiculous. So, I'm not saying it's right to validate yourself, but that then gives me credence that maybe I do need to validate myself. You need to know who you're dealing with. You're not dealing with some person that you're just going to think is a dummy. That's somebody that just might roll over. Somebody who's not college educated and may not be smart, and that's what you're going to view them as. No, no, no. I'm going to make sure you understand. Again, I'm not saying that it's right or wrong, but it's very difficult in dealing with the public that we have. And the perception that the public has of us, it gets very difficult in trying to figure out what to do and what not to do. And then you see successful people still having to validate. That gets very, very, very difficult to see and try to figure out what to do.
Yeah.
I guess the only thing I say to that is it didn't change anything. He did it, and it still didn't change anything.
You're right. You're right. You were absolutely right.
So for me, I would just be like, nah, man. Like for me, it's just it's about taking away whatever little power they believe themselves to have, right? Like when the Karen walks up to you on the block and says, "What are you doing here?" And your gut instinct, right? Because this is the way we've been taught, right? Tell them why I'm here. Tell them why I deserve to be here. No. I'm not going to do all of that because you need to understand that you don't have the authority or ability to card check me. You are nobody. Why should I give you that power? And that's what I'm not doing.
Yeah. Yes. Good. Fabe, you brought that conversation out of us. I'm sure you inflamed some emotions.
Conversation because, huh?
I've been triggered. I have to go get some therapy right quick.
You'd have been triggered. Well, it was a good conversation that I think needed to be had, because I don't know how, but the whole, man, my wife could tell you, like, for so long I've been like, before I thought of this podcast, I was like, yo, I don't know how, but I want to share this message. Like, how many of you, I don't know if y'all want this on YouTube, but I wanted to ask, how many of you had a father in your life in this recording here?
Let me put my business out there like that, man. No, I'm joking. No. My father died when I was 12, but he wasn't in my life anyway, so it didn't really matter.
So
no,
same
here.
Same here. I couldn't even tell you my dad's name. I'm not afraid to admit it because it's my truth. Like, this is just where my life is at this point, is I want to share with people, my truth, so that more people can see, and hopefully more people who look like me can see that you can do this. So it is not about, like, yes, I specifically work with entrepreneurs that want to own businesses and stuff, but my main thing is trying to help people. I want people to take control of their life. Like, you really can. And, like, to the people in Chicago or whatever communities, I get that they probably see their cousin, brother, sister, everybody's on the street and this and that. I just wish more people in the Black community asked why. Why do I have to, like, so why do I have to go out and shoot guns and kill people and do all that? Like, that's all that there is for me? Why? Just start asking why.
Yeah. And that's going to be the biggest thing, that the conversation just needs to be had, but representation needs to be shown also. We need to, like I said before in our last thing, we need to be controlling the images that are broadcast to our people. And that doesn't mean we got to segregate ourselves from others or anything like that. But if the narrative doesn't look like us and that's not our true view, or that's not how we really look, then we need to make sure that whatever we're doing gets representative outside of our own circles. So like your podcast, this podcast, Deep Third, and all those kind of things, you're talking about things that are important to a lot of people, and they need to hear about it because they need to see that, hey, I can do this. Hey, I can do this, and I'm all for everyone being successful, I'm all for everyone finding some form of success, however that looks for them. And
Like Eric says, break that programming.
yeah, yeah. And I think that's the hardest part, is that getting people on that and I would say bandwagon, because it's easy to get people to fall in love with entertainment. It's hard to get people to fall in love with info.
Yep.
So we got to figure out how to do infotainment. You know, a message in entertainment. That way people can grasp it. And that may be the beginning. I mean, it may evolve to just information or, teachings, but we have to learn that we have to go back to the beginning and build, not rebuild. We have to build us. We can't fix something, because the situation that we're facing today is not a broken system. It's a system that just never was meant for us. So if the system was never meant for us, then guess what? We have to go back and rebuild our own, but not necessarily rebuild. We got to build it because it was never built. We have to figure out how to build it in our own way.
Yep.
So, and that's the hard thing to do. It's the time consuming and it's the stressful thing to do. But I think, as like what we're doing now, talking about it, at least opens up the dialogue to where people can say, okay, maybe they have a point. And if they don't agree, then they don't agree, but we're going to keep it moving, and at least build our circles. So if we build enough circles and we branch out more circles, eventually it'll catch on. That's my viewpoint.
It's all you can do, right?
Yeah. So anybody has any final thoughts as we close this chapter of mental health?
Is that you can make an impact. To me, you guys alluded to, wanting to validate and stuff like that. So I hear you. I just want the Black community out there to know that, to me, there are some white people that you probably can make an impact on. And I think that is important, because my wife is white and her family was very racist. So of course, when we got together, she kind of had to hide that, and then it got to a point where she couldn't anymore. Family's so racist that, when I first met them, her brother wouldn't even, we met at like McDonald's and Walmart, and her brother wouldn't even come inside. Literally would not even come inside to meet me the first time. But obviously through time and through the years, we've grown very close. And I was able, me and my family, the way that we are, was able to change the way that they looked at Black people. And that meant a lot to me, to know that I had that impact on my father-in-law and mother-in-law before they left this earth. To me, that's, I don't know. I just wanted to share that, because to me, that's big, to know that me and my family had that big of an impact on their lives. And when I say racist, they were very racist. Her grandfather was like in the KKK, some high ranking person in the KKK and stuff. So family was pretty racist, but we were able to change their mindset.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Anybody else have anything they will say before we end this chapter?
Nothing as powerful as that.
What you say?
I said nothing as powerful as that, man.
Yeah, I know. I understand where he's coming from and why he views it the way he do, and that's always good. Conversation builds the bridges.
Yeah.
If I don't know your point of view and you don't know my point of view, we're just sitting there telling stories about something that we want each other to see, but we not even open up the doors to even let it, be shown. So I think throughout this podcast and as it grows, it'll be a part of the building blocks for each of our, networks that we create, because our authenticity, oh my gosh, our our genuine viewpoints and everything will always shine in how we talk about these issues and stuff like that. And that's all I ask, you know. Just keep it 100. You know, even if you support Trump,
Oh, settle down.
keep it 100.
Pastor.
If you're a pastor and you support Trump, you know,
He's reformed. He's reformed.
Listen, I do got something to say before we get off of here. I'm out.
okay.
I don't know sign language, Dante.
I know.
Can you translate for me, homie?
And
I'm
Jarrell,
sorry.
what did he say? What did he say, Jarrell?
He's frozen for me.
Oh.
Lives matter.
Okay.
Oh. Okay. All right. We're going to end on this. It has been a great episode. And I want to thank everyone for listening and seeing us talk about these tough topics. I want to thank the guys for their great input. And we will see you guys next time on Grown Men 2. Have a great night.